Good evening, everyone.
Good
Welcome
evening.
Perfect.
Don't get nervous now.
Welcome. I'm already scared to death.
Okay.
Welcome to the pre-council meeting, City of Joliet, Monday, October 3rd, 5:30. Mayor Bob Odekirk presiding.
We'll begin with roll call. Mayor Odekirk.
Here.
Councilwoman Gavin.
Here.
Councilman Girl.
Here.
Councilman Hug.
Here.
Councilman Morris.
Here.
Councilman Mudrin.
Here.
Councilwoman Coleman.
Here.
Councilman Turk.
Here.
First is citizens to be heard on agenda items. Christy Ford.
Hi. I understand that we are going to be voting on the water rates. The water rates need to go up because we have so badly misspent, or not misspent, but we have handled the radioactive waste in the water treatment plant so badly that it's now a state by the IEMA, they will now require nuclear licensing for all the water treatment plants in the city of Joliet. And they've been able to avoid this licensure since 2011. But since they've mishandled so much of the radioactive waste, it's now required that they will be licensed. And thank heavens, because that just means so much more protections for employees. It's going to mean environmental protections, but it's going to cost the city a lot of money to do this licensure. And it's just, because of this mishandling, now we have to have water rate increases. But it's necessary because, unfortunately, we have let it go so long, and we've tried to avoid the protections of employees and the environment that we now, I recommend you pass the water rate increases now, immediately, because we need it. And going forward, it just means protections for those employees and the environment. Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else that would like to speak on an agenda item this evening?
Good evening, everyone.
Seeing none, we'll pass it over to the city manager to discuss the agenda items.
Thank you. Mayor, members of council, I want to direct your attention to Council Memo 449, which is the position vacancies. We've got a fire paramedic position opening and then battalion chief opening, both due to pending retirements. And rather than going through the remainder of the agenda, well, first of all, I want to point out that under public hearings, item 453, we will have that public hearing, but we're asking that you table any action tomorrow night. At this time, I want to direct your attention to Memo 473, which was already reviewed by the Public Services Committee earlier this afternoon, and this has to do with an item that was brought forth in our 2014 strategic plan, and that is a recommendation to hire a consultant to perform the assessment of all of the city physical buildings that we have here in the city. And I believe there's 52 city-owned buildings, City Hall, Police Department, the museum, the library, fleet services, roadways, and so forth. And we put together a committee, and they looked at 12 sealed proposals. And at this time, they're recommending CDM Smith, and Mr. Atasi is here. And I'll ask him to address Mayor and Council just to briefly review what it is that this analysis will be providing us.
Good evening, and thank you for inviting us to be here. CDM Smith is a national firm composed of about 5,000 employees. Our Chicago office being one of the largest at about 85 employees. We do work for a number of public sector clients to help them with this very same issue. So this project specifically, we're going to be sending a team of architects, structural engineers, electrical engineers, mechanical, plumbing, civil site, and structural to go through each of the 52 buildings, do a needs assessment of each of the 52 buildings, and then identify a capital improvement program that the city can utilize to fund projects for the next 5, 10, and 20 years. After the analysis is completed of the 52 buildings, we take that data back and we do a risk analysis on these improvements to see where every dollar should be spent and prioritize those improvements over the 5, 10, and 20-year CIP or capital improvement plan. Again, we're sending a team of folks to, and hopefully to minimize impact on operations and to maximize every dollar that's available to the city of Joliet to be spent the best way possible to improve existing facilities. So with that, I'd be happy to kind of address or answer any questions or comments from the council.
Questions, comments?
Thank you.
Thank you. Mayor? Yeah, and just to let you know, the bids came in, originally it was 23 firms, and they narrowed it down to 12. Bids were anywhere from 109,000 for those that didn't have the resources to do the scope of what we want, to 980,000 for people that were basically going to be general contractors. They wanted the contract, but they were going to hire all. This firm has all the resources and all the personnel, and that's why they're, at 180-some thousand, that's why they're the best. Thank you.
And the ultimate goal here is to assist us in our annual budgeting process, knowing what items are critical, what are higher priority than others, so that we can adequately budget and know what our needs are in coming years. So directing your attention to Council Memo number 456. This is a resolution for an annexation of property at Laraway Road, Route 52. This is at the northeast corner of Laraway, and it's approving 38.46 acres. This is part of the, it's for a proposed trucking terminal at that location. It's properly zoned, and it's another expansion in our Center Point development. And as we go down the agenda, I'm looking at 456 has been pulled, hasn't it? Is that my correct note?
456 is being pulled, yes.
Okay, I'm sorry. 457 is a similar proposal. It's 13 acres on Lot 60. And this will be CMI Transload Facility, again in Center Point Terminal, LLC. Lot 61 will include the remaining 22 acres that'll be just used for wetlands, floodplain, and wooded buffer, and storm detention area as well. And then 458 is a similar development. This is lots 13 through 17 on, provides a plat splitting the various property sizes from 1.3 acres to 10 acres. And these will be utilized for individual container yard facilities within the transportation category of the intermodal zoning district that we have established in Center Point. Then we come to 459, which is the proposed water and sewer rate increases. As you know, August last year, consultants conducted a rate study and presented the results showing you that after 4 years of no rate increases, that they were necessary in order to meet the federal requirements on our sewer system improvements dictated by the federal EPA. And council decided to fund an efficiency study to make sure and assure the public that before we consider any kind of rate increase, that the procedures and processes of both the water and sewer divisions were extracting the maximum value that our rates that we were currently charging to our customers could support. So then here we are a year later, the efficiency study recommending that we make a greater investment in our infrastructure than we were making, to the level of 1% to 2%. So one of the goals of the Utilities Department was to provide adequate funding for a capital improvement program and maintain adequate fiscal reserves at the same time. So just a month ago, Council unanimously approved a resolution that accepted the efficiency study and also adopted an implementation plan that says that City Council has to maintain a strong commitment to action, that you should support the required funding and additional resources in order to achieve these recommended improved efficiencies and fund the federally mandated programs. And I think everyone agrees that we can't continue operating in a crisis mode that we have been in prior years, fixing mains when they break, having our pumps break down and not having them available to fill our water towers and make sure that we've got adequate supply for fire safety to our residents' homes. Staff did propose and agreed with the recommendation of the consultants, which was 12.5%, 10.5%, and 4% over the next 3 years, because it allowed for lower increases in future years. But based on the feedback we heard at the last council meeting, at this time, we're supporting the 7% flat rate each year for the next 3 years. This will still achieve the same goal of a 1% capital improvement amount, but it will necessitate in future years potentially higher increases than the initial higher amount would be. Our goal, my goal as city manager rather, is to bring the entire organization to a coordinated, proactive approach. And I appreciate the fact that you funded the recommended studies in public utilities and the fire department and the police department. But political bodies inherit these conditions, and this is surely an example of that. You've inherited the fact that we haven't had these increases over these many years. But it seems that we're always pointing fingers at other political bodies, saying that they're kicking the can down the road. And that has happened here, and as a result, we're having to face these more significant increases at this time than had we increased it over the years. So one of the other things, couple other things that this ordinance achieves that we were looking to do is clarifies the eligibility for senior discounts, which will continue in this ordinance. We've added a policy for collection of past due amounts at the time of sale for real estate transactions, and we've established and clarified usage of public hydrants for temporary water service, such as landscaping companies or pool filling companies that fill up at the hydrant. I think I was asked earlier, the average bill right now would be at a 7% increase. The average bill right now is about $54, and a 7% increase would be $3.78, bringing it up to $57.78. Senior bill at $36 a month would increase $2.52, making it $38.52.
Mayor,
Yes.
just to reiterate what Councilman Kirk said last week, when people look at the bill, there's other utilities on there besides just the water bill. So when they look at it, why don't you explain it, Mike?
Well, the whole bill consists of garbage, pickup and various other sewer separation and things like that. So when they look at their bill and it's like $90 or $100, it's not going to be 7% on top of that.
That's right.
It's going to be just the water and sewer usage, correct?
Right, correct.
And so that's where we're coming up with the average monthly bill, because most people don't have an average monthly total bill of $54. It's much more than that.
That's correct.
So probably double that, but, so that's kind of
Just wanted to clarify.
just on the water and sewer.
Right.
Right.
Mayor? Mike?
Yeah, I just had one more question. Our consultants aren't here tonight, are they?
No, they are.
But I know we all met with them individually or did so over the phone, and you know, we have to make a good faith effort to show the EPA that we're trying to do the right thing and restoring our system and getting it back in good condition for the future. And I know that if we don't do anything, that it's very possible the EPA could force a judge mandate to set the rates, correct?
That's correct.
And I had asked the consultant if he ever had that happen, and he says he did. And I forget what city and state it was in, but the judge, who was a federal judge, not a local judge, increased the rates 135%.
I've personally had that happen where I worked in Michigan, and the judge had been operating it for 27 years, the same judge. And he dictated in 12 cities the sewer rate for everybody. So it can happen.
Thank you.
Jim, I had submitted a proposal for a 5-year, 5% a year for 4 years, including a permanent ordinance that would be 2% a year, an increase for cost of living increase, if you will, or inflation, or an agreed upon, which I didn't delineate, an agreed upon federally published inflation increase or cost of living increase, whichever would be higher of the two. Was that given consideration?
Well, that was not submitted to the consultants.
No, I submitted it to you.
Yeah, yeah. Well, the consultants have, prepared for you what they recommended in order to, meet the bond obligations and, again, meet that 1% infrastructure, capital improvements annually, and 5.25% is a ways from 7% and more. So it wouldn't get us to that point.
Over 4 years it would, instead of 3, yeah.
No, if you go 7% a year right now, they're recommending 9.5 year 4, and year 5, and I believe year 6 as well.
Right, but we're not voting on that. We're voting
No,
on
you're not
3 years.
voting on that.
Right. All right, the only other question I had, Jim, is having served on the consulting committee, there was the disappearance of 30% of water. Some people said it could be leakage, some said it could be a billing problem. Whatever the reason is, it's supposed to be 6 to 8%.
Yes.
Is acceptable?
Yeah.
And when I talked to you about it last, you said there was a separate consultant looking into that.
Yes.
Has that been finished?
It has not been finished. I can share with you that with the new billing system, the finance department staff has been finding numerous errors in the past. Obviously, we would make if there's some sort of tremendous revenue as a result of that, believe you, if you adopt this ordinance tomorrow night, and suddenly there's a huge influx of revenue, we'll come back to you and say, we don't need 7% in year 2, reduce it. But that study's not complete at this point, and it'll take several months before it's complete and we do implementation.
Do we, with that, what do we bill approximately a year just in water and sewer?
Based on this. 7%.
Jim, do you know the answer? I don't know off the top of my head.
I believe the numbers. I believe the numbers in the range of $40 million.
40 million?
Yeah.
All right, thank you.
Yeah,
Yes.
if I may, just, Jim, just to be clear, having the rate increase at 7% does give us enough funding in that to handle our obligations.
Yes.
Am I clear?
Good.
It not only fulfills the obligations we will have for bond indebtedness, but it will provide the 1% per year for the capital improvement plan.
Good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Jim, just a couple questions here. What is the EPA mandate? What is that total obligation? I know it's an estimate at this point in time, but what are we estimating that bond issue is going to have to be?
It's going to be approximately $100 million once it's complete.
Okay, and that's going to be over how many years? The process?
Is it five years, Jim, or greater?
Once the loans are issued, the repay back is a 20-year period.
Okay,
Currently, they are loans, and we're looking at a 2% interest rate on those.
how about as far as, Jim, how long is the construction going to take? Is that 5 years? Is that what Jim was talking about? I know the bond's going to be paid back over 20 years,
Yeah, there's
but how long is the?
multiple phasing on the construction contracts. Some of the stuff will be, contracts will be completed in 2 years' time. The majority will be, we've tried to push those out to 5 years. So
Okay.
we're about a year into the process right now, so
Okay.
we're looking at
So we're going to issue.
2020.
Okay, so the 7% over the next 3 years is going to cover our debt service on the $100 million bond issue for the EPA mandate.
Yes.
And then there's also, I believe what the consultants put in there, Jim, was like a 1% kind of capital for, maintaining the infrastructure.
New water lines, new
water
sewer lines, lining,
So
sewer lines.
Yeah, so part of this will also go to improve or replace existing water mains. I know I get calls all the time, especially on Essington Road, in my district, where there's water main breaks. These dollars will address those problems, correct?
Yes, it will.
Great, thank you.
Moving on in the agenda, Council Memo 461 is a declaration of property surplus. It's just some old and some older vehicles throughout the city. Police, fire. Item 462 is the Aux Sable wastewater treatment plant. This is a memorandum of understanding that we're entering with both the National Pollutant Discharge Elimination System, NPDES, and IEPA, but and so we're also including the Prairie Rivers Network and Illinois chapter of the Sierra Club and getting their buy-in so that we don't get a challenge on the improvements that are going to be made for the expansion and future growth in this far west side wastewater treatment plant. Then I'm going to refer you to Council Memos 463 through 468. And all of these go back to 1890. And as Councilman Grill said, this is where we need to replace some old lines. And we never got the easements from the property owners way back when lines were put in. So we were going to make an improvement and then suddenly couldn't find them. So this takes care of all of these memos, address all of these property easements that will allow for construction in the right-of-way in front of these homes and in the area on Pine Street and Center Street.
Your Honor? Yes. Jim, and then the property owners will reconnect to these new hookups or whatever?
I'm sure that's part of the project, isn't it, Jim? Yes.
I know that there was the problems in that area where people were getting their water through another home, through the line, and it just created a lot of problems in that whole
Through a
area.
next-door neighbor, you mean?
Correct.
Yeah,
So this will alleviate all that.
correct.
Okay.
So Council Memo 469, this is a surcharge reallocation grants for the 911 PSAPs. So this is our emergency telephone system here, and there's a allocation of $90,575. And this will be reimbursing expenditures within the Emergency Telephone System Act. So we dedicate it to the purchase of mobile networks, radio, and communication equipment each year. Council Memo 470. This is utilizing motor fuel tax. It's a resolution to continue our 2016 pavement marking program, appropriating an additional $48,682. And then Council Memo 471 is a recommendation on a property tax abatement and waiver of building and impact fees for Blue Ribbon Products. Their existing location is 2410 West McDonough, and they're considering an expansion. They've got 43,000 square feet right now, and the first phase of construction would be 80,000 square foot with approximately $1.2 million in the machinery and equipment would be invested. The firm employs 37 people right now, and they'd be expanding an additional 15 employees over the next 10 years. And this is recommended by the Economic Development Committee. And with that, bids, award of contracts, and amendments, change orders, and payments will be reviewed by committees today and tomorrow. And I do not have a request for closed session.
Yeah, it was reported in the papers this weekend, to fill Councilman McFarland's seat. For the last 2 weeks, I've interviewed a number of people. I probably had about 20 people or somewhere in that area apply for the position. So after interviews with a lot of different people and bouncing this off others, I did come to the conclusion. Ms. Brooke Hernandez Brewer, who's present tonight, is going to be the person that I'm recommending to the council. The vote will be tomorrow, but I did invite Brooke to come forward tonight. If you can, briefly address the council, and if anyone had questions on the city council prior to the vote, it would not be the appropriate time. Thanks, Brooke.
Hi, thank you. Hi, as Mayor said, I'm Brooke Hernandez Brewer. That was my first line. You took it from me. I'm here today to give you a very short idea of what I'm about and why you should vote for me and why you would like to work with me on the council. I've grown up in Joliet my entire life, born and raised on Glenwood Avenue. I got married and moved about 3 blocks down to the Cathedral area where I live with my husband, who is a deputy correctional officer and part of the emergency response team at Will County, and our 3 daughters. They attend St. Paul's School. That you could have read in the paper. What I want to tell you is what I'm about, what I do. And the bottom line is I fight. I fight for people. I fight to make things better. I fight against injustice, and I fight for unity. And I see people in front of me that I've admired. I've never been a politician, but I've always been an activist. I consider myself a servant of the community, and I've been very involved behind the scenes in a lot of political actions throughout the last few years. I know I know as much about you as you do about me, what the papers, give me, but seeing the way you work, I am absolutely certain that I will be able to work with you and to do what I'm sure you want to do as well as I do, which is continue to make Joliet the city of champions that it is, and a fine and amazing place for us to raise our children and have our families. My husband calls Joliet the utopia. He says it's a perfect blend of people, and it's just far enough away from the city and far enough away from cornfields. You can't get a better place. And we plan on living here our entire lives, and the opportunity to continue to make it the city that you have helped make it would be incredible, and I would appreciate your vote tomorrow.
Thank you, Brooke. Any questions?
Did you say you worked outside the home?
I do. I do. I know it looks like I couldn't, but I do. I do. I work for Will County, currently the Will County Recorder of Deeds, and I do volunteer outside the home as well.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes.
Ms. Brooke, if I can call you Ms. Brooke or Ms. Drewer.
Yes. whichever
Thank
you'd like.
you. You know, I look forward to the opportunity. When you said you were a community activist, I know exactly from whence you come. Anybody that has that much passion for this city and willing to jump into this arena to make sure that we lead safe, productive, quality lives here in Joliet. So I am awaiting your arrival.
That's beautiful. Thank you. I can sleep tonight now. That's one. No.
Mayor, you know, Ms. Hernandez Brewer had mentioned earlier that she knows a little bit about all of us here. I hope that doesn't scare you away. But we actually had the opportunity to chat last week. It was the first time I think we had met kind of face to face. Had a great conversation, and I think you're going to be great for this job, serving the community. And I think you're really going to enjoy it as well, and you're going to really be a great addition to this council. So
Thank
again,
you.
I hope knowing a little bit about us doesn't scare you off, though.
Not at all.
Mrs. Brewer, you've got exactly 24 hours and 27 minutes to come to your senses. Okay? Other than that, we'll see you tomorrow night.
Thank
I
you
have no
so
questions.
much. Thank you.
Thank you. I just would add, thank you, Brooke. I would add, it was a very difficult process. There were a number of very qualified people, and it was not an easy decision to make. But thank you for coming forward and for volunteering, to serve our communities. I appreciate that.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you. One other issue for new business, Jim, I know Marty's out of town. If the council doesn't know, Marty's currently in Washington, D.C. He's involved in a case involving the city of Joliet in front of the United States Supreme Court. So it's a real honor for Marty to be doing that. Having said that, he won't be here tomorrow. There is an Evergreen Terrace update, which we should be given. Can we do that tonight if possible?
Sure, and I'll defer to Chris Regis to report on that.
Thank you. So, everyone knows that our target date for acquisition of Evergreen Terrace was and still is November 1st. And to that end, we've been having meetings between ourselves, between the attorneys we hired in Boston to represent us in our dealings with HUD personnel, and Holston, who will be the managing company, which will run the complex once it's acquired. Several documents have been prepared in anticipation of acquisition. On November 11th, I've been reviewing all of them with outside counsel. Today, I reviewed the Holston's tenant acquisition plan and procedures. And remember, this was mandated by HUD that we work with Holston, who's a professional management company. And they are really putting in a lot of work to make this happen and make it a productive acquisition. There is a motion which was filed by our attorneys up on Friday in federal court, and that's a motion for immediate acquisition. One of the stumbling blocks that we've been running into is we already allocated the money for it. The money is sitting in the Northern District of Illinois with the clerk. The $15,077,000 that we paid for it is sitting there. We don't have access to the facility because we don't own it. We don't have acquisition of it. So we're filing a motion for that. That looks like it's going to be opposed by the Burnham attorneys, and we have to see what happens after Friday. We'll have more answers to that end. So our target date is still November 1st, and things are moving in that direction, and I'm very happy with the progress.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And Chris won't be here tomorrow night either, so now's your chance. If you've got any legal questions, ask them tonight.
Where are you going to be?
That's not a legal question.
Kidding.
I'm performing a wedding ceremony, actually, so I have to travel out of town to do that. I wear many hats.
Next, we have public comments. Does anyone want to speak this evening? Seeing none, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Meeting adjourned.
Yeah.